Welcome to This Is Not Legal Advice and the second episode of Let's Explore TINLA's outrageously large collection of tarot and oracle decks. We're going in order of my purchase of these decks, which started, as I indicated, back in 2023 and has continued more recently and accelerated recently to be about 300 decks at this point. The second sort of grouping of cards that I bought followed along the original one. Now, in the first installment, we talked about the Garbage Pail Kids deck, which I'll put a little linky-doo up in here for that if you'd like to take a look at that. But my second installment is going to focus on the next deck, which is the Disney Villains Tarot deck. I'm not a huge like I'm not a Disney adult or anything like that, but this spoke to me because I mean I love Ursula and Maleficent, and I thought this was pretty cool. So again, just like with the Garbage Pail Kids deck, we see that this is a two-part deck box, which is a sturdy cardboard, which is nice. And maybe it seems silly that I'm bringing that up, but as we go about the series, you'll see why the deck casing is very important, because a lot of times, we can see a great deck and by an indie creator in particular, and that deck will just be the most gorgeous cards, but they can't even bother to make a box, which is just incredibly frustrating. Um, anyway, we'll get to that later. But for this one, we can see that they went ahead and, put some nice glossy um, font on there. And then we have this satiny string, which makes it easier to remove the deck and the book from the box. It has a nice little explanation here and some sample cards. And it comes with the guidebook here that is approximately, 127 pages. It gives you, the cards themselves, very much in the style of the Garbage Pail Kids deck that we looked at, and gets into, some basics on tarot, how to understand the deck, a couple of basic spreads. So a very nice booklet with that. And the deck itself is this lovely shade of purple. Again, just like with the Garbage Pail Kids, it is a more matte finish. So again, not having that shine so much, you're not getting that reflection. But it is also a more sturdy cardstock. So it is more about like I don't know, 300, 350 GSM. It's also a size, and I didn't bring this up in the last discussion, but it's a size that is manageable. It's not a true tarot size, which by contrast would be just very, it would be larger and more unwieldy. And we'll see these as we go through the collection that I have. But this is a good size where it's bigger than a standard deck of cards, but it is smaller than a lot of tarot decks. And just by contrast, this is, it's about the same size as this one here from the basic purple deck that I use to compare. So, it's a good size and is pretty well established. Anywho, so let's go ahead and take a look here. You can see that it's sturdy. It's giving you a good riffle. It's not bending to the point where you feel like you're going to break it or bend it. There is, a little bit of bend in these, not as much. So, the other one may have been like a 330 GSM and it's like a 300, or that might have been like a 320 and it's 300. So slightly less sturdy, but not anything I'm concerned about. It does, again, give you a nice riffle. It is something that fits nicely in the hand and isn't unwieldy to work with. Again, it is a deck that uses the traditional sort of nomenclature here, the cups, the swords, we have the coins or the pentacles, and the wands, 10 of wands or 9 of wands here. So, you're not going to find yourself in a situation where you're doing a reading and you're like, oh, well, what is the, 7 of crab shells? I don't know. But this one is, unique in terms of the artistry, but similar in terms of the nomenclature. Here we have, again, you can see with the nice finish on this, it is not really reflecting or giving you glare. Unlike the Garbage Pail Kids style, it doesn't have any kind of silver or gold, something that's going to give you that shine as much, that little neat effect that's a little extra, that little something extra. But it is still gorgeous artistry. and is different and subject to interpretation. It is also both that deck and this deck are not full on to the ends. These have the borders here. You can see the purple border around, which I like in a lot of ways because it really distinguishes the presence of the artwork from some of the text here. But everybody has their own thing. So some people may like the border, some may not. Again, I would say when it comes to building your collection, dear viewer, you got to go with what works for you and what you find appealing. There are a lot of decks that I don't collect because I don't find them interesting personally, or they don't really vibe with me. Sometimes there's people that like a lot of, for example, modern artwork. I don't care for the modern style, like Picasso style, if you will, like a lot of geometry, things that are very harsh and I don't know. I like things that have a story to tell, essentially. So even some of the animal decks I have a difficult time with, but there are some folks that really are into plants. Maybe that's your thing, and that's fine. Or maybe you're into some of the Native American culture, and that's something that you want to look at collecting. For me personally, I'm not into pastels. You might be. No harshness, no judgment for me on that front. But your collection is ultimately going to be a reflection sort of you. And I think if it's not a collection, if it's not a deck, excuse me, that you connect with, you're not going to give the best reading you can. Because that's really what it's about is, are you feeling the deck? Or is it sitting with you? Are you able to really get a good sense of things from it? Or is it something that is just irritating you because maybe it's not shuffling right, or it's not spreading right, or you're not able to do this thing with it really well, or maybe it's too big for your hands and it's just irritating you that way, or it's using again the seven of gerbils, or some other small land mammal or fish, or I don't know, the king of shells. I don't know. I don't personally like those because if I have to interrupt my process to go back to the book and say, okay, what is the king of shells? That's not going to work well for me and how my weirdo ADHD brain works. Anywho, so I just picked a couple cards as is tradition to compare with the standard Rider Waite. Again, you can see that this card lays nice and flat. There's no bowing. Anywho, we have the Two of Swords, the Knight of Coins or Pentacles. Again, coins and pentacles are interchangeable, so it's not really a challenge. You're not like, again, you're not trying to figure out, are coins like represented by some kind of, I don't know, weird, headphones or something. I don't know. We also have the World. So these things, I think, is a good sampling of what we can compare it with. So let's go ahead and get the traditional Rider Waite. The Two of Swords, we're going to look at right here as such. The Knight of Coins or Knight of Pentacles is as such. And then the World in the Rider Waite is apparently, hold on, let me see if I can, I'll take my selenite, one of my selenites on here and cover up the tatas because, even though there aren't like nipples or anything, YouTube is weird. Anywho, so you can see the contrast here between the two. Again, when I'm looking at these, when I'm choosing a particular deck, when I'm being intuited or guided toward a deck for a reading, I don't always know what the differences are going to be. I mean, I can't memorize 300 decks, right? So it's not like, for example, excuse me, for example, if I'm picking the Disney Villains deck, I'm not sitting and remembering, oh, well, in this deck, the Two of Swords faces down. And this and it's crossed. And in the original Rider Waite, the swords are up and they're not crossed. In this one it has the moon and its background of the water. And this one it's just red, and maybe red is a significant color. I don't remember those things. It's just too much to remember. But it is significant again when I'm doing a reading, because I might look at these swords and it almost looks like they have action sort of lines here where they're in motion. These are swords that are kind of coming down and crisscrossing, which is more of like a battle here where maybe two people are fighting and they're just, as the swords are going around, they're like pushing against each other, but it's something that's happening. Whereas traditionally, the Two of Swords, can mean a stagnancy or a lack of movement, like decision paralysis kind of thing, where you're so in your head that you can't even see what's in front of you. You're really just at a loss. The sword's almost like, ugh, you're not fighting anyone, you're not going anywhere, you're not doing anything. So again, when I'm doing a reading, I like these sort of story cards that are different because they help me, understand maybe more of the story that I'm telling for the person that I'm reading for, or the collective I'm reading for. Similarly, we have the Knight of Coins here. The horse is not moving. The person riding it is, got broccoli in his hair. I'm kidding, it's not broccoli. I don't know what it is, but he has the pentacle in his hand, like he's offering it. He's coming towards someone with the coin, but not moving yet. Like very much planning on doing that. Planning to plan, if you will. Whereas in this particular version of that, you can see that there's an individual riding a bicycle. So the bicycle is moving. And in this case, it looks like the coin is being represented by the headlight. So it's more of a, being guided by, as I would see it, a desire for money or prosperity. Being chased here, you got like a baby carriage looking thing kind of rolling behind the bike where the person looks like they're escaping it. So if I'm reading this card versus this card, I might say, okay, this person is in pursuit of monetary gain, to the exception of all other things, including a family life, including maybe their children. Whereas in this one, I would be saying something to the effect of, they're offering you something, some kind of monetary benefit or a gift, but they're not making their way there yet. So you can see, again, the subtle differences in how these differences would affect an overall reading. In the world, it's more of this philosophical, completion of a cycle. You've got all these different figures and this angel-looking person with, the wand, the kind of the scepters or wands that she's holding. This angel type thing is holding. This non-gender specific angel is holding. But here, you've almost got a wizard of sorts conjuring a globe, which says this is somebody who is, while this is a completion of a cycle, and 21 is the completion of a cycle, the completion here says we are moving on sort of peaceably, accepting the end and moving forward. Whereas this one is, if I'm reading for someone, I might think you are pushing for the end, you're manifesting an end, you're wishing for the end of maybe a painful cycle or for something to happen that you're waiting for. So again, that's a theme that you'll see as I go about these decks, is each one has its own personality. Each one takes on this different meaning based on how the artist decided to portray these things. So it's the same in the sense of it follows the same pattern, but those subtle differences in the artistry or the different interpretations of the same artistry very much impact the reading overall. If I were to look at this, in terms of, am I going to, read this spread, I might say, you are somebody who is dropping your weapons. You've been fighting this decision-making process. You've been in your head about it. You've been fighting about it, but you're willing to drop that and move on. And what are you doing? You're moving in the direction of monetary gain to the exclusion of family or commitment. And maybe instead you are ready for that to be over. You're ready to move forward in your life. You're ready to move forward in your career, again, to the exception of all else. And maybe you were stuck in a place before where you didn't know what to do, but now you're dropping that battle. You're letting it go. You know what you want to do. You're pursuing vigorously that monetary gain. And you're hoping, I think, for a very positive outcome, and you're trying to force that positive outcome, maybe a promotion, maybe you're giving up on a relationship in favor of working hard and hoping that brings you to a new chapter in your financial life. Whereas here, I might read it to say, like, you are hoping for some guidance from the moon, that things are still a mystery to you. In fact, they might be an intentional mystery where you don't want to see the truth. You're debating still, even here, do I move forward with this? Do I pursue my financial goals? Do I pursue, someone else and give them some love? I think there's still a very stagnant energy here where you're not doing a whole lot of movement. You're doing a lot of contemplation and kind of waiting to see where the world takes you, waiting to see how things play out on their own before you make that decision. Whereas here, I'm kind of feeling that the decision's already been made and the movement is accordingly. So again, very different readings, with the same 3 cards, just based on how the artist has rendered these cards. So I think, again, it's a great deck to use if you like Disney, if you're a fan of, looking at the totality here, from red to blue to green. Those colors might have significance to you. Maybe you just love the color purple, the movie or the Prince sort of interpretation of that music, or you just like the color. I don't know. But you have to, again, go with what feels right to you. And if the Disney Villains deck is something that feels right for you, I cannot argue with that. When I purchased it, it was approximately $22, and now it looks like it's about $23. So pretty consistent pricing on there, and not, believe it or not outrageous Disney pricing. So for roughly 25 bucks, you can get yourself a really nice Disney Villains deck, and I would definitely give it 2 snaps in a circle. So thanks for joining me, and best of luck in all your practice.